Captain Lee Taeho stood perfectly still as the massive doors of the council chamber opened. The sound echoed through the huge room like thunder. Behind him walked Dr. Park So-young and Ambassador Kang Min-woo. All three humans wore simple black uniforms with no decorations. They looked very small compared to the giant aliens around them. The Galactic Council chamber was bigger than any building on Earth. 847 different alien species sat in rows that went up higher than skyscrapers. Some aliens floated in glass tanks filled with green gas. Others hung from the ceiling like giant bats. Many looked like walking crystals or moving clouds of light. At the center sat Speaker Vexithari. She was made of blue crystal that pulsed, with bright light. She was older than human civilization. Her voice sounded like breaking glass when she spoke. "Humans of Earth," Speaker Vexithari said. Her crystal body flashed brighter. "You have been called here to receive an important message from this council." Captain Lee Taeho said nothing. He just looked up at the speaker with calm eyes. "Doctor." Park So-young held a small recording device. Ambassador Kang Min-woo stood with his hands behind his back. The three humans seemed relaxed, but many aliens noticed something strange about their stillness. High Commander Kelnoth rose from his seat. He was 12 feet tall with 6 arms and skin like metal. His species had conquered half the galaxy before joining the council. "Your species has been expanding too fast," he said in a voice like grinding metal. "You have built colonies in 43 star systems in just 47 years. This is against the natural order," added Counselor Morden. She looked like a giant octopus made of silver liquid. "Young species must learn their place slowly. You humans are like children trying to run before you can walk." Whispers filled the chamber. Thousands of alien voices spoke in hundreds of different languages. They all seemed to agree. The humans were growing too powerful too quickly. Speaker Vexithari raised one crystal arm. The chamber became silent. "The council has made a decision," she announced. "Humanity must abandon all colonies beyond your home solar system. You have 30 standard days to complete this task." The silence that followed was complete. Not one alien moved or spoke. They all watched the three humans standing far below. Themshot Captain Lee Taeho tilted his head slightly. "All colonies?" he asked. His voice was quiet but clear. "Every single one," High Commander Kelnoth confirmed. "Your people must return to Earth and the other planets around your sun. This is not a request. This is a command." Dr. Park So-young leaned close to Ambassador Kang Min-woo. She whispered something in his ear. The ambassador nodded slowly. Then he whispered something back. Captain Lee Taeho heard every word, but his face showed no emotion. "What happens if we refuse?" Captain Lee Taeho asked. The question surprised many aliens. Most young species begged for mercy when the council gave orders. They offered gifts or promises. They never asked about the consequences of disobedience. Speaker Vexithari's crystal body flashed red. "Then we will take corrective action," she said. "The council has maintained peace in this galaxy for 3 million years. We will not allow one species to threaten that peace." "Corrective action," Captain Lee Taeho repeated slowly. "What does that mean exactly?" High Commander Kelnoth stood up to his full height. His metal skin reflected the chamber's lights. "It means we will remove you from those systems ourselves," he said. "Our combined fleets have never lost a war. We will not start losing to humans." Many aliens made sounds that meant agreement. Some laughed in ways that sounded like breaking metal or rushing wind. The idea of humans fighting the entire Galactic Council seemed impossible to them. Captain Lee Taeho looked around the chamber slowly. His eyes moved from one alien species to another. He seemed to be counting something. After a long moment, he looked back at Speaker Vexithari. 30 days, he said. 30 standard days, Speaker Vexithari confirmed. Not 1 day more. And all colonies beyond Sol system. Every single colony, outpost, and settlement. Captain Lee Taeho nodded once. "We understand your position," he said. "Ambassador Kang." Min-woo stepped forward. Will the council provide transportation assistance for this evacuation? He asked politely. Several aliens laughed. The sound was like thunder mixed with musical notes and metal scraping. You will use your own ships, High Commander Kelnoth said. The council is not a moving service. Of course, Ambassador Kang Minwoo said with a small bow. We had to ask. Dr. Park So-young raised her hand slightly. May I ask how the council will verify that we have completed this evacuation? Our ships will inspect every system, Counselor Mordun answered. Her silver tentacles moved like liquid snakes. We will know if even one human remains where they should not be. I see, Dr. Park So-young said. She made a note on her recording device. Speaker Vexthari leaned forward. Do you have any other questions? She asked. Her crystal voice sounded annoyed. Captain Lee Tae-ho looked at his two companions. Both of them shook their heads slightly. He turned back to the speaker. No questions, he said. We will consider your request. It is not a request, High Commander Kelnoth roared. His voice shook the entire chamber. It is a command from the lawful authority of this galaxy. Captain Lee Tae-ho looked up at the huge alien commander. For just a moment, something flickered in his eyes. Several aliens who were watching carefully felt a strange chill. Of course, Captain Lee Tae-ho said softly. Our mistake. The three humans turned and walked toward the chamber doors. Their footsteps echoed in the huge space. None of them looked back at the hundreds of alien species watching them leave. Just before they reached the doors, Captain Lee Tae-ho stopped. He turned around slowly. One more thing, he said. When you inspect our former colonies, please be careful. Space can be very dangerous for the unprepared. With that, the three humans left the chamber. The massive doors closed behind them with a sound like thunder. In the silence that followed, many aliens felt confused. They had expected the humans to beg, to offer deals, to show fear. Instead, the humans had seemed almost calm. Some aliens began to wonder if they had missed something important. Speaker Vexithari's crystal body pulsed with satisfied light. The matter is settled, she announced. Meeting adjourned. As the aliens began to leave, none of them noticed the small device Dr. Park So-young had left behind. It looked like a simple recording device. In reality, it was something much more dangerous, something that would soon change everything. The war room beneath New Geneva was darker than space itself. Admiral Yoon Dong-soo sat at a round table made of black metal. Around him sat the most important military leaders in human space. The only light came from holographic displays that showed star maps covering the entire galaxy. Captain Lee Tae-ho had returned from the council meeting 6 hours ago. He stood at the center of the room, still wearing his diplomatic uniform. His face was as calm as it had been in the council chamber. They want all colonies evacuated in 30 days, Captain Lee Tae-ho reported. Every human settlement beyond Sol system must be abandoned, or they will use military force. General Kim Hye-jin laughed, but it was not a happy sound. Military force, she repeated. 800 species against one. They think we're children. Admiral Yoon Dong-soo pressed a button on the table. The holographic displays changed. Now they showed not just the known human colonies, but hundreds of other locations marked in red. Show them what children can do, Admiral Yoon Dong-soo said quietly. Dr. Choi Byung-ho stood up from his chair. He was older than the others, with gray hair and tired eyes. But when he spoke, his voice was strong. Project Horizon is ready, he announced. We have been building for this day since first contact with the Council. The holographic display zoomed in on what looked like empty asteroid fields, but as the image became clearer, the asteroids were revealed to be something else entirely. Hidden shipyards, weapons factories, military bases built inside rocks that looked like space debris. How many? Admiral Yoon Dong-soo asked. 3,000. Facilities across 1,200 star systems, Dr. Choi Byung-ho replied. The Council knows about our 43 official colonies. They have no idea about the rest. Colonel Nam Soo-bin activated her own display. It showed the locations of every major Council military base, trade route, and government facility. Red dots marked thousands of positions throughout the galaxy. My people have been in place for decades, she said. Traders, refugees, mechanics, cooks, cleaners. Anywhere council species gather, we have eyes and ears. And hands. Captain Lee Tae-ho walked to one of the displays. It showed the council chamber where he had stood just hours before. They think we've been playing at civilization, he said, building colonies like farmers planting crops. Instead, we've been building a web, General Kim Hye-jin added. With Earth at the center and connections to every part of the galaxy. Admiral Yoon Dong-soo stood up slowly. He was not a large man, but when he moved, everyone paid attention. The Council has made one critical mistake, he said. They assume we think like them. The holographic displays changed again. This time they showed Council military formations, huge fleets arranged in perfect geometric patterns, ships moving in straight lines, battles fought according to rules that had not changed in millions of years. Their civilization is old, Dr. Choi Byung-ho explained. They have traditions, customs, ways of doing things that never change. When they fight wars, they follow the same patterns their ancestors used 1,000,000 years ago. But we are new, Colonel Nam Subin said. We have no traditions to limit us, no customs to follow, no rules except winning. Admiral Yoon Dong-soo walked to the largest display. It showed the entire galaxy with all known council positions marked in blue and all hidden human positions marked in red. The red dots outnumbered the blue ones by 10 to 1. They want to see what happens when they threaten human children, Admiral Yoon Dong-soo said. We're going to show them. Captain Lee Tae-ho pressed a series of buttons on his wrist device. Across the galaxy, thousands of hidden transmitters activated simultaneously. In asteroid mines on the edge of council space, human workers received new orders. In alien cities, human merchants began making different kinds of deals. On council military bases, human maintenance crews started accessing computer systems they had been watching for years. Phase 1 begins now, Captain Lee Tae-ho announced. All colonies will begin evacuation procedures. The council will see exactly what they expect to see. And Phase 2? General Kim Hye-jin asked. Captain Lee Tae-ho smiled, and it was not a nice smile. Phase 2 starts when they try to verify the evacuation. The room fell silent as everyone understood what he meant. The council would send inspection fleets to make sure every human had left. Those fleets would find empty colonies, abandoned cities, and space stations with no life signs. They would not find the humans who had never left. They would not detect the underground facilities that had been there all along, and they would definitely not notice the surprises waiting for them. Dr. Choi Byung-ho activated another display. This one showed technical specifications for weapons the Council had never seen before. Ships that could phase in and out of normal space, missiles that could travel through time, defensive systems that turned an enemy's own weapons against them. The Council believes technology has limits, Dr. Choi Byung-ho said. They believe physics has rules that cannot be broken. They are wrong. Colonel Nam Subin opened a communication channel to her scattered teams. All units, begin intelligence gathering. I want to know the location of every council leader, every important military commander, every government official. If they're going to threaten us, we need to know who they are and where they sleep. What about their families? Someone asked from across the room. The question hung in the air for a moment. These were military officers trained to win wars, but they were also human beings who understood the difference between soldiers and civilians. Admiral Yoon Dong-soo answered carefully. We target military assets and government officials only. We are not the council. We do not make war on children and families. Unless they make war on ours, General Kim Hye-jin added quietly. The room fell silent. Again, everyone knew what she meant. The council's ultimatum was not just about colonies. It was about the millions of human families who had built lives among the stars, children who had been born on worlds far from Earth, people who had never seen Saul's son. Captain Lee Tae-ho walked back to the center of the room. The council thinks we will run home like frightened animals, he said. Instead, we are going to teach them why humans became the top predator on every world we ever lived on. Admiral Yoon Dong-soo pressed the final button on his control panel. Across the galaxy, hidden human facilities began awakening from decades of sleep. Automated factories started building new ships. Weapon systems performed final checks. Communications arrays established contact with sleeper agents who had been waiting for this moment their entire careers. 30 days, Admiral Yoon Dong-soo said. They gave us 30 days to surrender everything we've built. 30 days should be enough, General Kim Hye-jin replied. For what? Colonel Nam Soo-bin asked. Captain Lee Tae-ho looked around the room at all the officers who would carry out humanity's response to the Council's ultimatum. Men and women who had spent their lives preparing for a war they hoped would never come. 30 days should be enough to remind the galaxy why apex predators don't warn their prey before they attack, he said. High Commander Kelnoth stood on the bridge of his flagship Eternal Victory. Around him, holographic displays showed the largest military fleet in galactic history. 12,000 ships from 200 different species stretched across space, like a metal forest. Status report, he commanded. His aide, a floating crystal being called Zeftar, pulsed with blue light. All fleets are in position, High Commander. We have scouts approaching the first human colonies now. Kelnoth nodded with satisfaction. No species had ever resisted a council ultimatum. The humans would be no different. In a few hours, he would receive reports of desperate evacuation ships fleeing toward Earth. The first report came from Scout Fleet 7. High Commander. The scout captain's voice crackled through the communication system. We have reached the Kepler 442 system, the human colony of New Busan should be here. And? Kelnoth asked impatiently. There was a long pause. Sir, there's nothing here. Kelnoth frowned. Nothing? Define nothing. No colony, sir. No orbital stations. No ships. No debris. It's like the colony was never here at all. Another report came in from Scout Fleet 12. High Commander, we've reached the Wolf 359 system. The industrial complex at New Seoul has vanished completely. Our sensors show no trace that anything was ever built here. Then Scout Fleet 3 reported from the Gliese 6167C system. New Incheon. Colony is gone, sir. But this is impossible. According to our intelligence, this colony had 2 million inhabitants and a major shipyard. You can't evacuate that many people without leaving some trace. Within an hour, every scout fleet was reporting the same thing. Human colonies that should have been frantically evacuating were simply gone. Not destroyed, not abandoned. Gone, as if they had never existed. Dr. Lim Eunji watched the confusion from her hidden observation post in the Vega system. The listening station was built inside an asteroid that looked like any other piece of space rock. Her team monitored all council, communications, and what they were hearing made them smile. The Zephyrite commanders are starting to panic, reported Lieutenant Park Gunwoo. They're questioning whether their intelligence about human colonies was accurate. The Morden fleet is requesting additional sensor sweeps, added technician Kim Da-min. They think their equipment is malfunctioning. Dr. Lim Eunji activated her own sensors and looked at the nearest abandoned human colony. To council sensors, the new Gwangju settlement appeared completely empty. But human sensors told a different story. The colony was still there. 200,000 people lived and worked in underground facilities that had been built at the same time as the surface structures. The orbital stations had been moved into a parallel dimensional space where council technology could not detect them. The shipyard was still operating, but in a quantum state that made it invisible to conventional sensors. They're not just confused. Dr. Lim Eunji said to her team. They're scared. For the first time in millions of years, the council doesn't understand what they're seeing. Captain Oh Sang-wook commanded the stealth frigate Indomitable. His ship was designed to be invisible to every form of sensor the council possessed. Right now, he was watching a council inspection fleet search for the new Daegu colony, the alien. Ships moved in perfect formation, scanning every planet and moon in the system. Their sensors were so powerful they could detect a single metal bolt floating in space, but they could not find a colony that was hiding in plain sight. Major Bae Jun-ho stood in the command center of what had once been called Titan Base. The Entire installation had been moved through dimensional space to a location between normal dimensions. From here, he could see the Council fleet searching the empty coordinates where the base used to be. 37 ships, he reported to his officers, all looking for something that's right in front of them. The Council fleet was using scanners based on technology that was millions of years old. Reliable, tested, proven technology. But humans had spent 47 years studying that technology and finding ways to hide from it. "Sir," reported Sergeant Yu Min-ho, "Council ships are beginning to spread out. They're starting a system-wide search pattern." "Let them search," Major Bay, Junho replied. "They could search for 1,000 years and never find us." The truth was simple but impossible for the Council to understand. Humans had not evacuated their colonies. They had made their colonies invisible. Every human settlement beyond Sol system had been built with multiple layers. Surface facilities that Council satellites could observe and photograph. Underground complexes that were hidden from orbital scans. And dimensional phases that moved entire installations into spaces that technically did not exist. The Council knew about the surface layers because humans had wanted them to know. The underground and dimensional layers were humanity's real colonies. Bigger, better defended, and completely hidden from species that had never needed to hide from anyone. High Commander Kelnoth received his 100th report of missing colonies, and felt something he had not experienced in his 600-year military career: uncertainty. "This is impossible," he said to his staff. "You cannot move entire populations without leaving traces." "Perhaps the humans have technology we don't understand," suggested his intelligence officer. Kelnoth made a sound like grinding metal, his species' expression of contempt. "They are barely 50 years out of their home system. What could they possibly know that we do not?" But even as he said it, doubt crept into his mind. The Council's intelligence on humanity was based on what humans had shown them. What if they had been hiding their real capabilities all along? The answer came when Captain Oh Sang-wook decided to reveal the truth to one Council patrol. His stealth frigate decloaked directly in front of a Zephyrite destroyer, appearing from what seemed like empty space. The destroyer's captain immediately sent a panicked message to the fleet command. "Unknown human vessel has appeared from nowhere. How is this possible?" Captain Oh Sang-wook opened a communication channel to the alien ship. "This is Captain Oh Sang-wook of the Human Defense Force. You are looking for our colonies." "Where are they?" demanded the Zephyrite captain. "All around, you," Captain Oh Sang-wook replied calmly. "You're looking right at them." As he spoke, sensors began picking up massive energy signatures throughout the system. Orbital stations phase-shifted back into normal space. Underground complexes sent up communication signals. Asteroid mining facilities revealed themselves to be military installations. The new Daegu colony had never left. It had simply been hiding in dimensions the Council did not know existed. "Impossible," whispered the Zephyrite captain. "You wanted to know what happens when you threaten human children," Captain Oh Sang-wook said. "This is what happens. We don't run. We hide until you get close enough, and then we show you what we've really been building all these years." Phew. Revelation spread through the Council fleet like wildfire. The humans had not obeyed the ultimatum. They had not evacuated their colonies. Instead, they had made their entire civilization invisible and watched as 12,000 alien ships searched for something that was right in front of them. For species that had ruled the galaxy for millions of years, it was a shock beyond comprehension. The humans were not the children they appeared to be. They were something much more dangerous. High Commander Kelnoth stared at the reports flooding in from across his fleet. Every system they had checked contained hidden human installations. Colonies that existed in spaces between dimensions. Military bases built inside ordinary asteroids. Weapons platforms that could appear and disappear at will. "How long?" he asked his intelligence officer. "Sir, how long have they been building all this?" The intelligence officer's tentacles trembled with fear. "Since first contact, sir. Everything they've shown us for 47 years was just the surface layer." Kelnoth realized with growing horror that humanity had been playing a game the Council never knew was happening. While aliens debated whether to trust the newcomers, Humans had been studying them, learning their weaknesses, and building weapons, specifically designed to exploit those weaknesses. "Send a message to the fleet," Kelnoth ordered. "Full alert status. We are not dealing with children anymore." Fleet Admiral Song Ki-tek floated in the command center of the Defiant Dawn, humanity's most advanced warship. Around him, holographic displays showed the Council's massive fleet spreading across dozens of star systems, searching desperately for colonies that seemed to exist and not exist at the same time. "Status report," Admiral Song requested. Dr. Ryu Huan-Young, his chief science officer, activated her display. "Quantum warfare systems are fully operational, Admiral. We can phase our ships through 17 different dimensional layers now." "Lieutenant." Shin Da-eun piloted her fighter through what looked like solid rock. Her ship existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, allowing her to fly through objects that were solid in normal space, but empty in quantum space. "Enemy destroyers are trying to track us," she reported through her communication system. "They can't understand how we're moving through their own ships." The Council fleet was experiencing something impossible by their understanding of physics. Human ships appeared from empty space, fired weapons that seemed to shoot backwards through time, and disappeared into dimensions that should not exist. "Hi." Commander Kelnoth stood on his bridge, watching his tactical displays show human ships doing things that violated every law of physics his species understood. "How are they moving through solid matter?" he demanded of his science officer. "Unknown, sir. Our sensors show their ships occupying the same space as asteroids and even our own vessels, but somehow not colliding with anything." "And their weapons?" "They appear to fire energy bursts that travel backwards in time, sir. We detect the impact before we see the weapon discharge." Master Chief Park Gun-woo had been waiting for this moment his entire career. He sat in a control room deep beneath New Geneva, surrounded by screens that showed every piece of technology humanity had ever traded with alien species. For 47 years, every computer system, every communication array, every transportation network that humans had helped build or repair contained a hidden program. A digital virus that could remain dormant for decades, invisible to the most advanced alien scanners. "All systems show green, Admiral," Master Chief Park Gun-woo reported. To Fleet Admiral Song Ki-tek, "Every piece of Council technology with human components is ready for activation." "How many systems are we talking about?" Admiral Song asked. "Approximately 47 million individual installations across 847 different worlds, sir. Communication networks, transportation systems, power grids, water treatment plants, waste disposal facilities, climate control systems, and defensive networks." Admiral Song nodded grimly. Humans had not just been trading with alien species. They had been embedding themselves into the fundamental infrastructure of galactic civilization. Dr. Ryu Huan-Young activated her quantum warfare systems. "Beginning Phase 4, she announced. Across the galaxy, something unprecedented happened. Every piece of technology that humans had ever touched began to malfunction simultaneously. On the Council's homeworld of Nexus Prime, the transportation network suddenly stopped working. Flying cars crashed to the ground, trains derailed, spacecraft fell out of the sky. In the space of 10 seconds, the planet's entire transportation system shut down. The communication networks failed next. 800 species suddenly found themselves unable to talk to each other. The galactic internet, which had connected civilizations for millions of years, went completely dark. Then the power grids began failing. Worlds that had not experienced electrical blackouts in millennia suddenly found themselves in darkness. Emergency systems activated, but even those had been contaminated by human-modified components. High Commander Kelnoth's flagship lost all external communications in the middle of a battle. His fleet was scattered across dozens of systems fighting an enemy that could appear and disappear at will, and now he could not coordinate with any of his ships. "Sir," his communication officer reported in panic, "we're receiving a transmission on all frequencies. It's coming from inside our own communication system. The main display activated, showing a human face that most Council species recognized." Fleet Admiral Song Ki-tek appeared to be sitting in his command chair looking completely calm. "Greetings, High Commander Kelnoth," Admiral Song said politely. I believe you wanted to speak with humanity about our colonies. How are you broadcasting through our secure channels? Kelnoth demanded. The same way we've been hiding our real capabilities for 47 years, Admiral Song replied. Every time your species asked us to repair your equipment, upgrade your systems or trade technology, we embedded a small piece of human programming. The horrible truth began to dawn on Kelnoth. For nearly 5 decades, humans had been working inside the Council's most sensitive installations. They had repaired computers, upgraded communication networks, and maintained the technology that kept galactic civilization running. You've been sabotaging us from the beginning, Kelnoth accused. Not sabotaging, Admiral Song corrected. Preparing. You see, High Commander, humans have a saying, trust, but verify. We trusted that the Council would treat us fairly, but we verified by making sure we could defend ourselves if they didn't. Lieutenant Shin Da-eun's fighter squadron materialized inside the hangar bay of a Council dreadnought. The alien crew watched in shock as human ships simply appeared from nowhere, as if they had always been there. This is impossible, the dreadnought's captain transmitted. You cannot teleport matter through shields and armor. We are not teleporting, Lieutenant Shin replied cheerfully. We're just existing in more dimensions than your sensors can detect. It's really quite simple once you understand quantum mechanics the way humans do. Dr. Ryu Huan-young monitored the battle from her command post. Admiral, Council forces are attempting to withdraw from several systems. Their ships are moving in retreat formations. Let them go, Admiral Song ordered. But make sure they understand why they're leaving. Master Chief Park Gun-woo activated the final phase of humanity's infrastructure virus. Every screen on every Council world simultaneously displayed the same message in every known alien language. The Galactic Council demanded that humanity abandon our colonies within 30 days. Instead, we spent 30 days demonstrating why that demand was impossible to fulfill. Our colonies were never just settlements. They were part of a defensive network that now encompasses the entire galaxy. Every world you live on, every ship you fly, every system you depend on has been touched by human hands. We are not your enemies, but we are no longer your subjects. Consider this a lesson in why apex predators do not announce their intentions to their prey. The message was signed simply, Humanity. On Nexus Prime, Speaker Vexithari watched her crystal body flicker as even the Council chamber's ancient power systems were compromised by human viruses. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows on walls that had not seen darkness in millions of years. How is this possible? She asked her aide. Their species is barely 50 years out of their home system. Perhaps, her aide suggested nervously, they are older than we thought. High Commander Kelnoth stared at his tactical displays as human ships continued to appear and disappear around his fleet. His weapons could not lock onto targets that existed in multiple dimensions. His shields could not stop attacks that came from directions that should not exist. For the first time in his 600-year military career, he was facing an enemy that fought by completely different rules. Send a retreat order to all fleets, he commanded. Sir, send the retreat order, Kelnoth roared. We cannot fight an enemy we cannot understand. As the Council fleets began their withdrawal from human space, they left behind a galaxy that had been fundamentally changed. The species that had ruled for millions of years now knew they were no longer alone at the top of the food chain. Humanity had not just defended their colonies. They had demonstrated that they could control the infrastructure of galactic civilization itself. Every alien world was now potentially under human influence. Fleet Admiral Song Ki-taek watched the Council retreat and felt no satisfaction. This had not been a victory. It had been a revelation. The galaxy was about to learn that the age of ancient empires was over. The age of humanity had begun. The Council chamber on Nexus Prime had never been so quiet. Emergency lighting cast long shadows across seats that had held the galaxy's rulers for 3 million years. Speaker Vexithari's crystal body barely glowed as she watched High Commander Kelnoth's battered fleet limp home. Only 3,000 ships remained from the 12,000 that had set out to enforce humanity's evacuation. The others had not been destroyed. They had simply been disabled by weapons and tactics no Council species understood. President Jo Hyun-soo appeared on every functioning screen in the chamber. Behind him stood the human military leaders who had orchestrated what historians would later call the greatest strategic defeat in galactic history. Honored members of the Galactic Council, President Jo said with perfect politeness. We received your ultimatum 30 days ago. We have prepared our response. Speaker Vexthari's crystal form pulsed weakly. Your colonies were supposed to be evacuated. Instead, you have attacked our fleets. We did not attack anyone, President Jo corrected gently. We simply revealed that your ultimatum was based on incomplete information about human capabilities. Admiral Hwang Mi-kyung stepped forward. She had been humanity's diplomatic observer for decades, always quiet, always listening. Now she spoke with the authority of someone who had been preparing for this moment her entire career. The Galactic Council made several assumptions about humanity, she said. First, that we were a young species with limited technology. Second, that our colonies were simple settlements that could be easily abandoned. Third, that we would accept the authority of older civilizations without question. All of these assumptions were incorrect, President Jo continued. We are not as young as we appear. Our colonies are not what they seem, and we do not accept authority based solely on age. High Commander Kelnoth forced himself to stand. His 6 arms shook with exhaustion and something he had never felt before, defeat. What do you want? He asked. Grand Admiral Lee Sung-hoon, the hero of humanity's defense, activated a holographic display that showed the entire galaxy. Blue dots marked council worlds. Red dots marked human installations. The red dots outnumbered the blue ones by a ratio that shocked every alien in the chamber. We want what every species wants, Grand Admiral Lee said calmly. Safety for our people and the right to exist without interference. But more than that, President Jo added, we want the galaxy to understand something important. The age of the old council is over. The universe is larger and more dangerous than you realized, and you need allies who can adapt to new threats. Speaker Vexthari tried to pulse brighter, but her crystal form was still affected by the human computer virus. You cannot simply dissolve the council. We have maintained peace for 3 million years. Peace for whom? Ambassador Hwang Mi-kyung asked quietly. The 43 species that were corrected by council forces in the last 1,000 years might disagree with your definition of peace. The chamber fell silent. Many council species had forgotten about the civilizations that had been forcibly relocated or disbanded for expanding too quickly or developing technology the council considered dangerous. We propose a new arrangement, President Jo announced. The Galactic Council is hereby dissolved. In its place, we establish the Terran hegemony, with humanity as the senior partner and all existing council species as junior partners. The shocked silence that followed was broken by Councillor Morden's liquid voice. Senior partner? You are one species among 800. One species that controls the infrastructure you all depend on, Grand Admiral Lee replied. One species that exists in dimensions you cannot detect. One species that has been preparing for this conversation. Since the day we first met you, President Jo raised his hand for silence. We do not wish to be conquerors. We wish to be protectors. The galaxy faces threats you cannot imagine. Threats that your rigid traditions and ancient ways of thinking cannot handle. What threats? Speaker Vexthari demanded. Dr. Park So-young, who had been quietly recording everything in the original council meeting, stepped forward. Show them, she said to President Jo. The holographic display changed to show images from the edge of galactic space. Dark shapes moved between the stars. Ships that were not ships, beings that were not quite alive, and weapons that could destroy entire star systems. The Devourers, Dr. Park So-young explained. They consume entire civilizations and convert them into more of themselves. Our long-range sensors detected them 18 months ago. They will reach council space in approximately 50 years. This is why we have been building defensive networks throughout the galaxy, Grand Admiral Lee added. This is why we needed colonies in every system, not for conquest, but for protection. Your ultimatum would have forced us to abandon the Very defenses that might save all of us, President Joe said. High Commander Kelnoth stared at the images of the approaching threat. His military training told him these were enemies unlike anything the Council had ever faced. "Why didn't you tell us about this threat?" he asked. "Would you have believed us?" Ambassador Huang Mi-kyung replied. "A species you considered children, warning about dangers your ancient scanners could not detect?" The truth was uncomfortable but obvious. The Council would have dismissed human warnings just as they had dismissed human capabilities. "What happens now?" Speaker Vexithari asked. President Joe looked around the chamber at species that had ruled the galaxy longer than humans had existed. "Now you have a choice. Accept humanity's leadership and help us prepare for what is coming. Or continue to believe that age equals wisdom and face the devourers with 3 million-year-old tactics." "This is not a negotiation," Grand Admiral Lee added firmly. "We have demonstrated that we can control galactic infrastructure. We can make your ships disappear, your communications fail, your power grids shut down. You are no longer in a position to make demands." Colonel Nam Subin activated her communication system. "All human forces stand ready. Defensive positions around all Council worlds are now active. Above every major alien planet, human ships began to decloak. Massive defensive platforms that had been hidden in dimensional space for decades suddenly became visible. Weapons pointed not at the planets below, but outward toward the dark space where the devourers waited. "You see," President Joe explained, "we never wanted to conquer you. We wanted to protect you, but protection requires authority, and authority must be earned. We have earned it," Grand Admiral Lee said simply. Speaker Vexithari's crystal body dimmed to almost nothing. For 3 million years, her species had been the ultimate authority in the galaxy. Now they were being offered protection by beings they had considered inferior just hours earlier. "Do we have a choice?" she asked. "Everyone always has a choice," President Joe replied. "But some choices have better outcomes than others." High Commander Kelnoth looked at his defeated fleet, at the images of approaching cosmic horrors, and at the human defensive networks that now surrounded every world he had sworn to protect. "What are your terms?" he asked. Ambassador Huang Mi-kyung smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. "Simple. Acknowledge humanity as the senior species in the new hegemony. Provide full access to all Council technology and databases. Allow human oversight of all military operations. In exchange, we will protect you from threats both external and internal. And if we refuse?" President Joe's expression did not change, but somehow the temperature in the chamber seemed to drop. "Then you will face the devourers with whatever resources you have left after your infrastructure continues to malfunction." It was not really a choice at all, and everyone knew it. The species that had ruled the galaxy for millions of years were being offered a chance to survive under human protection or face extinction trying to maintain their independence. Speaker Vexithari looked around the chamber at the representatives of 800 species. All of them were thinking the same thing. How had they failed to see what humanity really was until it was too late? "We accept," she said quietly. President Joe nodded. "Welcome to the Terran hegemony," he said. "Your first lesson in human leadership begins now. Grand Admiral Lee, please show our new partners what we've been building while they thought we were just children playing at civilization." The holographic displays activated again, showing the true scope of humanity's galactic presence. Not just colonies and military bases, but research stations studying every aspect of galactic life, scientific laboratories developing weapons and defenses beyond alien comprehension, industrial complexes that could build fleets faster than any Council species could imagine. "You wanted to know what happens when you threaten human children," President Joe said. "What happens is that you discover they were never children at all. They were apex predators learning how to hunt in a much larger wilderness." As the former Council members began to understand the magnitude of what humanity had accomplished in just 47 years, one thing became clear: the galaxy would never be the same. The age of ancient empires was over. The age of humanity had begun, and somewhere in the dark space between galaxies, the devourers continued their approach, unaware that their next meal was now defended by the most dangerous species the universe had ever produced.